In the year 1991, at Rutgers University, United States of America, the first Women's Global Leadership Meeting initiated an international campaign tagged 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence. This campaign runs every year from the 25th day of November, which is the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, through to the 10th day of December, Human Rights Day. This is the power of a few to make global change. You are watching NAPTIP On The Move, and I am Emmanuel Okeke. Thank you for joining us. To commemorate the just concluded annual campaign, today's episode is dedicated to addressing the issues of gender-based violence as covered by the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act of 2015. Stay with us.
The National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, in celebrating the 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence, uses the medium of information dissemination to enlighten the general public on the provisions of the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act of 2015, which seeks to protect and compensate victims while adequately punishing offenders. Speaking on provisions of the VAP Act that directly relates to gender-based violence, the Director, Public Enlightenment, Arinze Orakwe, addressed the issue of harmful traditional practices with emphasis on harmful widowhood practices.
The cultural manifestations in different tribes and whatever are different. Like in Igbo land, there are very terrible widowhood practices which deny them their rights, their husband chattels and properties, or they get them to shave their hair, subject them to terrible rights. Some of them are even accused of having killed their husband, and they are made to drink the water that is used in washing the husband before burial. And those are horrible things. You see scenarios where the husband's relatives come and actually get into the compound and decide what will happen to the woman. Some even allocate the woman to themselves as if she's a piece of property. In different cultures, it's like that. The manifestations are different, but the fact is that those things are done because she's a woman. Because if it's the man that loses the wife, nobody does such things to the man. So part of the reasons why the people who made the law, the Violence Against Persons, felt it's critical and it's important that it should be part of things that we're enforcing.
Female genital mutilation is also prohibited by the VAP Act.
The female genital mutilation is not, it's something it's not particularly resident in any tribe or culture. It cuts across. Why it's been done, I can't tell you for whatever reasons why it's been done. But the bottom line is that it denies women the total enjoyment of their marital life or their sex life, which shouldn't be, aside from the health risks, because most times they are done on very terrible corridors where infection is possible, where most of the time they lose their lives, and the people who do them are not even people from medical background. So it shouldn't even be done ab initio in the first place. So these are, amongst other things, these are the things that the 16 days windows affords us to reason together to make sure that our women are not violated against. The freedom to live their lives to the fulfillment and to enjoy their lives should be theirs to do in line with what we consider the good values that we have, not the obnoxious practices that reign in different cultures. I think that should be the high point of it.
He then talked about issues related to spousal battery and the socio-cultural process that has enabled its subsistence.
For example, a lady goes back to complain to the parents that the husband is abusing her or violating her. You find there are some mothers that will tell you, no, you better stay there. Where would you want to come back to? Is that an excuse for the irresponsibility of the husband? What if she goes back there and gets killed? So they say, no, our church does not support divorce. But now it's a trending thing that many men kill their wives, just like some also wives kill their husband. So women must stop transferring those negative vibes that allows their fellow women to take cue or to queue up for what is obnoxious, what is irresponsible, and what shouldn't in the first place have existed. There's a sociocultural process that have been transferred over the years, and people are beginning to accept it because there's a way you tell lies, it begins to sound like truth. That's the way to behave. Even if your husband is beating you, slaps you in this cheek, you turn the right cheek, you'll be submissive. Yes, I understand all those. I have no problem with what the Holy Book says. But I also do not have a problem with a woman who leaves her husband out for reasons of abuse. Because if you stay there, the tendency is that she might lose her life.
Abandonment and destruction of property is also frowned at by the law.
Please avail yourself of the facilities of the existence of NAPTIP. Bring up the reports of your abuses of your husband. A husband has no right to beat you. A husband has no right to abandon you. Spousal abuse, spousal battering, abandonment of wife and children, those things are against the law. Even destroying her property. Because you see some messages on your phone, you use the phone and smash, that's against the law and people do not know.
He then highlighted the problems in societal judgment on issues of indecent exposure.
You cannot detach it completely from the male-dominated society and the patriarchy system that we operate in. Because that is just that. Men determine what a woman will wear. Men determine how a woman behaves. Men determine when a girl is raped, rather than blaming the animal who raped her, the excuses are made to the extent that she wore dresses that exposed part of her body. Go to universities, go to polytechnics. The very first thing as you get there now is to have that picture which profiles women as the cause of the problem, or maybe the cause of rape in schools. Because the idea is they are trying to find answers or explanations to why there is rape. So don't indecently expose yourself. And what is indecent exposure? The pictures you see there are pictures of young girls. But I've never seen pictures of boys who sag. So we are making excuses for people to behave like an animal. Because the assumption is that it is the indecent exposure that explains the rise in rape in such a community. And which is wrong.
On the heartbreaking reality of incest, the Director, Public Enlightenment, offers some solutions.
It's a shame and it's so obscene that a parent, a father, violates his own daughter. I'm not talking about brothers violating sisters. I'm talking about fathers. Father violating your own child and actually putting that child in a family way, which is impregnating the child. And most times these are children, these are not even adults. Now, what is also trending is men going into 3-year-old, 2-year-old. We received several reports of that, and I can't seem to understand it. You've destroyed that child permanently. The stigma will not leave the child ever. Because anytime that child is seen, and that is why most times you find out that when it happens, people hardly ever come to report. Because of the fear of the stigma to the child. So that child now begins to adopt other unhealthy pleasures because of the enormity of what she's been exposed to. Now, uncles who violate their nephews, that's also incest because it's not supposed to be. on their nieces. That's also incest. It's not supposed to be. Our level of oversight is collapsing, and nobody is watching. Mothers are not watching what's happening to their daughters. Fathers are not watching what's happening to their sons. So I think if we expand this oversight, a man has no business giving, bathing his daughter. It shouldn't be. Let's even begin to do it like that, so that let mothers be mothers and take care of their girl child, and then we can begin to deal with it. I think we owe it to ourselves to both the faith-based organizations begin to look at these issues as they trend, and begin to communicate to their followers that this is wrong and it just has to stop.
He then called on all state actors to get involved in the protection of their citizenry by domesticating the VAP Act.
The 16 days window allowed Nigerians, both in the government and society, to begin to respond to or address our minds to those concerns that harp on issues of violence against women, issues that violate the right to be, their pursuit of happiness, their sex, which is not their making, because violence against women are crimes committed against women because of who they are, which they didn't choose. So NAPTIP is encouraging the states also adopt the violence against persons in their domain, because now I think it's about 2 states, FCT Lagos and Anambra, that have done so. Other states must find it necessary and urgent to adopt the violence against persons. The entire law cannot be bad, that you can't find something that supports the growth and development of women in your state.
The discussion on the elimination of gender-based violence should not stop after celebrating the 16 days of activism, but must indeed remain on the lips of all concerned until gender-based violence is totally eliminated from our society.
The Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, known as the VAP Act, aims to eliminate violence in private and public life, prohibit all forms of violence against persons, provide maximum protection and effective remedies for victims, while ensuring that offenders are adequately punished. NAPTIP implements this act, and for all victims of violence, be it domestic, physical, economic and psychological violence, female genital mutilation, incest, harmful substance attacks, rape, child abandonment, and so on. We call on you to take your destiny into your own hands by reporting to NAPTIP, and we assure you that justice will be served.
Report all cases of violence against persons to these hotlines: 0703 0000 203, 080 2255 627847. NAPTIP, ensuring a human trafficking and violence-free nation.
Ignorance of the law, they say, is not an excuse. That is why NAPTIP is committed to public enlightenment on relevant issues that can foster societal change. This is also a call to all women out there to shun the socio-cultural conditioning that has not only enabled but helped to keep on the patriarchal strongholds in our society. NAPTIP event is next. Keep watching. A roundtable discussion on building synergy for greater effectiveness in the fight to end modern-day slavery in Nigeria was recently held at the House of Representatives wing of the National Assembly. The event, which was informed by the visit of some members of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association from the United Kingdom, was chaired by Right Honourable Samuel Ikong, House Committee Chairman on Interparliamentary Relations.
This meeting is organized with the sole aim of bringing together champions from all stratas to brainstorm on what is the best possible framework and way forward to tackling slavery issue in Nigeria. In line with what we seek to achieve at the end of this consultative meeting, we must understand how to develop and secure support for appropriate responsive, proactive legislations that does as much to inhibit the supply of trafficked persons as it does to eliminate the demand for it. There is also the need to find ways and legislations to demand more reasonable action from countries where these acts are perpetrated, such as prosecution of their citizens involved, repatriation of funds standing in the names of the traffickers to their home countries, visa restrictions for unskilled labor migrants, etc. It is my earnest desire that resolutions from this meeting will give the needed direction and steam to this fight and to battle it to a standstill.
He then commended NAPTIP for their efforts so far and reiterated the need for collaboration by all stakeholders. Goodwill messages were delivered by representatives of the United Kingdom Department for International Development, National Human Rights Commission, and the Director General of NAPTIP, Dainjidi Akadonli, who made a presentation on the mandate of NAPTIP and its efforts so far.
In 2003, Nigeria enacted Trafficking in Persons Prohibition, Law Enforcement and Administration Act, which created NAPTIP as a multidisciplinary agency to coordinate all efforts to stem the tide of human trafficking in Nigeria. The agency currently operates from a headquarters in Abuja and 9 zonal commands based in Lagos, Benin City, Kano, Enugu, Osogbo, Makurdi, Maiduguri, Sokoto, and Uyo. NAPTIP from inception has continued the vigorous pursuit of its mandate through programs and operations against human trafficking, using its 5-pronged strategic approach: policy, prevention, protection, prosecution, and partnership.
She also raised some salient issues during the discussion.
Most of the destination countries, they treat victims as criminals, and the protocol frowns against that. You cannot treat a victim of human trafficking as a criminal. You must treat a victim as a victim. Most of the time, the rights of the victims are not told to them. So the victims do not even know they have rights at all. So they are scared because they think they are criminals, and that is why they don't come out with useful information that can lead to the arrest of the traffickers at the destination countries. Then, of course, like I keep saying, whilst we're looking at the root causes of human trafficking in Nigeria, which are poverty, ignorance, lack of education, lack of jobs, the destination countries must also look at the root causes of human trafficking. Prostitution is legal in most of the destination countries. And the truth is that most of these girls and boys that are used for sexual exploitation are trafficked victims. So there's a very thin line between a real prostitute and a prostitute prostituting because he or she is being trafficked. The love for cheap labor in the destination countries is also fueling human trafficking. Irregular migrants are the ones that are doing the jobs in the destination countries. Pornography is also big business, and these victims are used for pornographic materials to sell.
The Honorable Speaker of the House was represented by Honorable Chukwuka Onyema. Member of the United Kingdom Parliament, Honorable Kato Samuel, said that the purpose of the exercise is to learn more from the Nigerian experience. Some of the resolutions arrived at the consultative meeting include sensitization, partnerships, victim support, specialized tribunal, legislation, and better coordination, among others. Stakeholders present include House of Representative members from the Committee of Inter-Parliamentary Relation, Governmental Affairs and Human Rights. Relevant agencies include NAPTIP, Nigerian Immigration Service, Armed Forces, civil society organizations, and members of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, CPA. The head of the Modern Day Slavery Project of the CPA, Daniel Eyre, delivered a vote of thanks, while the chairman, Right Honorable Samuel Ikong, read the resolutions. The partnership resolution and synergies achieved at this meeting informed the courtesy call by the House Committee on Inter-Parliamentary Relations led by Honorable Mojid Alabi and his team in the company of the United Kingdom Commonwealth Parliamentary Association to the NAPTIP headquarters in Abuja.
The team from the UK as well as the champions from Nigeria have been on this fight for quite some time, and the CPA UK has sponsored quite a number of meetings, both here in Africa and there in the United Kingdom. And the focus is that this menace of modern slavery, we must find a way of stopping it. Not only nipping it in the bud from the source, but also ensuring that the perpetrators on both divides, whether here in the developing world and there in the developed world where they are taken, are actually brought to book. Our role as legislators to look into the laws and see where there are gaps that need to be filled to ensure that we have legislations that could be effectively implemented to make sure we not only track, but we also bring to book the perpetrators of this heinous crime.
The delegation was received by the Director General of NAPTIP.
Prior to this meeting we had yesterday and today, of course, NAPTIP had set up a committee to look into the laws, because like you rightly said, we had seen that there was a lot of gaps in the law. Personally for me, on my assumption of duty, I realized that the age limit for young girls who could work as domestic helps was 13, 12, and I thought that was too young, because for me, she's still a child. So I thought it shouldn't be anything less than 18, because when someone is 18, at least you're an adult to a certain degree, and you can at least control your mind, at least, to a considerable degree. And so many other areas that I was not comfortable with in the law. So when you came up with this idea, I thought, okay, in law we call it a consensus ad idem. There's a meeting of the minds, and I was very excited at that prospect. And I know that if we're on the same page with the assembly members, then of course the deal is as good as it's a done deal. It expedites action.
She also made some suggestions on areas of partnership with the legislators.
We're ready to work with you to go into the most interior of the interiors to ensure that we sensitize everyone, the community leaders, the faith-based organizations, the youth leaders, the Market Women Association, the parents. I think that is one area we should look critically into, in the area of prevention. Like you all know, prevention is always better than cure. Then in the area of protection, victim care and assistance, you also have a role to play. All of these victims come from a local government. They all come from a state. Going forward, what I think I should be doing, if I find out the various states that these girls come from, I will share with you. Then you can reach out to your colleagues. We have 10 girls in NAPTIP shelter. They need to go to school, and you need to come and do something about it. Because NAPTIP cannot do it alone. The federal government cannot do it alone. So I think this will also be another good way of partnering with NAPTIP.
The meeting was fruitful as everyone present agreed to work together to ensure the eradication of modern-day slavery.
NAPTIP On the Move is co-sponsored by the Rule of Law and Anti-Corruption Programme, ROLAC, funded by the European Union and implemented by the British Council.
The Victim Story segment promises to teach you a thing or two about the plight of victims, and one may be sitting next to you right now.
The reason why I'm here is because when my stepmother was not around, my daddy called me and told me that he want to told me something me and him, we used to hear that father sleep with daughter. I said yes. I used to hear. Then he said that is what I mean we are going to do. Then the day that my stepmother traveled, he called me that I should come in the night in his room. Then he said that I should come. When I came, he started flogging me that he told me something. I don't want to listen to him. Whether I like it or not, I must do it. Then he forced me, touched my hand and read me the first time. Then the second time he said that I should escort him. We are living near here in the mountain. Then I escort him. Me too, I don't know that he's going to do the second and the same thing with me. Then as I escort him, we in the middle, inside bush. Then he said that I should come down. Immediately I come down, he said that he told me something. I don't want to listen to him and disobey him. Then he started flogging me the second day. Then he tied my wrap. He tied my hand, removed all my clothes. Then he started sleeping with me. If I shout somebody help, he will say that I want to die. He will put his hand on my neck. I should not shout. He will cover my mouth that I should not shout. Then on Saturday I came back. He bring 2 medicine that I should use 6 days. Him too, he will use 6 days. Then after using these 6 days, the thing will stay inside my body and the thing will stay inside his body. Then he started getting money. Then immediately he left. I carried the medicine and showed one security man in our area. Then he said that the security man said that I should leave the house before he will kill me. Then last week on Friday, he called me and told me that I should not come to school again. I asked him why. He said that is what he told me. I should not come to school. Immediately he took my stepsister to school. One boy gave me 100 naira to carry back to school. Immediately I came to school, he followed me and come and report me to my former teacher. Immediately he left, I told my teacher everything. From there, we came to our principal, then I told her everything, then they called those people to come and pick me. I thank NACTIS very much because they helped me. If not, I did not open up, that man could even kill me. I thank God, go bless them more than that.
For more enquiries and support, or to report cases of suspected human trafficking and violence against persons, call NAPTIP hotlines on 0703 0000203 or 0800 2255 627847 or email info@naptip.gov.ng. Visit our website www.naptip.gov.ng. Follow us on our social media platforms at NAPTIP Nigeria and watch our videos on YouTube.
We've come to the end of today's episode, but I must urge you to report suspected cases of human trafficking, violence against persons and child abuse to NAPTIP. A stitch in time, they say, saves 9. I hope to see you again, same time next week. I am Imanalo Keke. Goodbye.